Testing. Testing, testing. Can you hear me now? Did that fix it? No audio. Let's see. There we go. Okay, good, good. Hello, everybody. Let me see. Let me make an adjustment here on the chat that I'm seeing. Put it in like that. Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, so doing the live stream a little earlier and with an actual announcement. So hopefully that helps, and hopefully we see a few people jump in from the different channels. Looks like I've got some folks on Facebook. I can see folks on Periscope through Twitter. I can see folks in the YouTube channel. Oh, you know what? Let me jump out for 2 seconds. I'm just going to post that this is live here to the Comic Tropes page, just in the community announcement. So bear with me just one moment, and I'll be with you. And what am I doing here? Well, let me jump down here. You may have seen this making the rounds on social media. Oh, I need to adjust the camera too. I can see that it's trying to autofocus. But what's going on here is on social media, it's just being shared around. Hashtag 6fanarts. And there was a template here created by MCA PRIG. Oh, let's see. MCA Prig Lionheart. Lion. I don't know. Something like that. Yeah, just a lot of my friends and a lot of professionals were actually doing this, just saying, who do you want me to draw? I put it out there on Twitter. Got a lot of different, like, you know, we're talking almost 200 different characters, unique characters. But what I did then was I summed up all the requests, and there were 6 that got requested more than any others. These are not my choices, but people asked me to do, and I've done some sort of light poses so that I can like flesh this out now for everybody. But they did some poses of let's say they requested Adam Strange, and that was because who's the writer on that? Is it Tom Taylor? He retweeted my thing, so he got a lot of requests for Adam Strange. Or is it Tom King? Oh geez, all of a sudden I'm messing up Tom King and Tom Taylor. That's like how can I mess that up? I'll figure it out. But also Donatello. This is going to be Mr. Miracle, Spider Jerusalem, Shredder, and Paste Pot Pete. Now, for a couple of these, I had to print off their costumes here. These are not the same poses, but I was like, I know these characters, but I didn't necessarily know Adam Strange or Mr. Miracle's costume. So I've sort of got some reference here. I've sketched up a light pose, and I'm going to do the hashtag 6fanarts. I'm just going to sort of flesh this out, then I'll ink it and try to make it look cool. Kind of small, but I'm just trying to like work with the template that everybody else is. Tom King, thank you. Thank you. Tom Taylor. You know what they did is on April Fool's Day, Tom King and Tom Taylor posted very similar photos in their profile pics. They tried to sort of look like each other, holding like a DC cap, like unshaven beard. And it got in my head. I was like, oh, I was thinking of them as the same guy. All right, so I'm just making a quick post here to the community tab on Comic Tropes. And yeah, we're good. So I will try to also answer any questions that you guys want to ask. Yeah, couple obscure ones in here in a way. I also didn't really know Spider Jerusalem. I had to look at pictures of him to sort of flesh out this tattoo, because he's got tattoos all over himself. First, I just sort of put in a guy smoking, because that seemed like something he would do, but then I sort of had to like go like, oh, what's the tattoo? And I didn't want to be slowing it down during the live stream. So anyway, let's see, we're good here. Your channel got me back into comics. I read Italian, so Dylan Dog and 20th Century Boys. Well, that's great. Those are both really, really great books. I'm glad that you tried them out. Wasn't Tom King just Tom Taylor's code name when he worked for the CIA? Yeah, maybe. So, let's see here. I hadn't really thought beyond this in terms of like how much time I'd be spending on each character, but probably shouldn't spend too long. That's part of why I tried to draw it small. And I'm just adjusting right here. I can see that this is trying to sort of autofocus, so I'm just putting in a different setting here so that it doesn't keep trying to do that. Bear with me and I'll be right back into the chat room. Apply. Okay. Good. And there we go. So if I miss somebody's chat question, you can feel free to ask it again. It's I've got like quite a bit going on. What would you have picked if you were to choose 6? You know, I couldn't make up my mind. That's why I just put it out to other people and like let somebody take it from there. So let's see. We've got first of all Adam Strange. And you know what? While I know Adam Strange's overall origin, he's basically like a guy that got zapped by a ray that teleported him essentially to a planet, and he became their hero. I don't know much beyond that. But there's a new DC comic about him, and yeah, so that's cool. I have to admit, there's a couple DC characters that I have a bit of a blind spot on. And sadly, Adam Strange is one of them. I believe the name of the planet he defends is called Rann, R-A-N-N. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering that part right. But I'm not an expert on that guy. Not an expert on Adam Strange. So if anybody else out there is, feel free to drop some knowledge on me. Just not somebody I really know. But I'm just sort of throwing in his costume. He's a guy with a jetpack, so gotta throw that in there. And then he's got what? Like he's sort of got like a strap across him that must hold that that jetpack on, I guess. So I wonder if he was influenced by he's sort of like a Rocketeer kind of guy. I don't know. I don't know if he has any other powers beyond the jetpack. Who's the character on the bottom left? That's going to be Paste Pot Pete. Just sort of a guy in a generic pose right now. Love the Star-Lord shirt. Thank you. Am I going to cover Berserk? Well, never say never. Have to be honest, I haven't read it yet, so you know it's not something I'm going to get to right away. But yeah, I'd be happy to cover stuff. I love covering stuff that I don't necessarily know that well. I like learning. All right. Paste Pot Pete deserves a mural. Who is the original Hulk personality? No, the original one is, I don't know if it would be called Joe Fixit or not, but he definitely was sort of more cunning and not the sort of savage beast. Oh my god. Paste Pot Pete is definitely a huge goofball character. And a Fantastic Four enemy, and technically really mostly a Human Torch enemy. And his whole power is just that he runs around with glue His own glue that's supposed to be, like, really powerful. He later called himself the Trapster, but to me, he's always going to be Paste Pot Pete. And if these lines don't necessarily make sense right now, all I can say is try to bear with me, and hopefully they eventually will. Is Captain Negativity not here yet? I don't know who that is. Sorry. What's an album or music that you liked when you were younger but would not want to revisit again now? Oh, man. I was into a lot of rap when I was a teenager, and a lot of it I still love. No question. You know, I mean, I love, I don't know, Beastie Boys, certainly, but, like, you know, Public Enemy and Ice-T, I still legit love a lot of it, but there's some that was pretty embarrassing. I mean, I was listening to stuff like Vanilla Ice too. Ugh, I would not enjoy that anymore, really. Maybe a little bit ironically, but that's about it. Original Hulk was more talkative, yeah. Let's see. So happy to have my YouTube back. Oh, good. That's cool. And I got a few people on Facebook as well, so that's cool. Nice to have you folks there. Appreciate it. I think you guys can all sort of see the chat window that's like right under me. And that's pulling from Twitch, YouTube, my second YouTube channel, and Periscope through Twitter. Did you update the title? It still says Optimus Prime. No, I didn't update the title. So, to make it accurate, here, I'll temporarily... Oh, yeah, I was working on Optimus Prime all along. Oh, maybe I'll wrap this up and move on. Let's see, I'm just going to ink this line here and here. And oh, you know what? This has been fun, but time to move on to something else, I think. Why don't we set that aside? And, hey, since everybody online is doing the hashtag 6fanarts, why don't I continue with that? Saved it. Smooth. Let's see. See my friends Ben and Emily and Chris all in the Facebook, so thank you very much. Jean, my sister's here. Hello, Jeannie. How's your day going? I'll be honest, a big part of why I'm doing these live streams is just because I missing social interaction. I don't know about you guys, but I am feeling it. Just cooped up. Oh, well, yesterday, my governor said that he is extending the shelter-in-place recommendation out to the end of this month, out to the end of April. One more month, basically. Another, like, 30 days. And then we will see. And on top of that, they spelled out that even car dealerships were absolutely considered non-essential. Definitely a part of that makes me a little nervous, because I definitely want to have a job to come back to. I need to make money. I'm very nervous that YouTubing could all of a sudden become my full-time career before I'm ready to declare it as such, but who knows, you know? We'll see. First question related to the live stream. Have you heard of a man named Pat Lee? Maybe. Was he the guy in like the late 90s that was doing, or maybe even the early 2000s, doing Dreamwave? Quick question. Everyone support Chris on Patreon. Well, if you're... Yeah, and I agree, JoJo. It is the responsible thing to do to stay at home right now. I'm just nervous about where it could lead. But, yeah, if you're in a position where you can afford like something like $1 a month, I would love to have that support on Patreon. But if that's stretching your personal budget, or you're in a similar place to me where you're not sure exactly what's going to happen with your job right now, I would never ask anyone to put themselves at risk. I'll figure something out no matter what. But if you're in a position to, yeah, all I can say is I'm going to keep making content, and I would definitely appreciate the support. But it's all up to what's going on in your life, if you can afford that. And if you can't do like a regular sort of ongoing monthly thing through Patreon, that's why I've got like this link up here. You can donate a one-time tip of whatever you're comfortable with on a coffee. What are my thoughts on Berserk? Again, have not read it. Sorry. Scary times, says Chris. I totally get it, man. I mean, I'm definitely drinking more, I'll tell you that. Like, who's drinking this early? I mean, it's after 5 o'clock, so I guess I'm still okay, right? But, yeah, tough times. I'll tell you who I have the most sympathy for right now is people with kids. Oh, my God. To have to educate and entertain them all of a sudden while maybe, working from home. I mean, people go to school to get an education in teaching education, and now all of a sudden parents are being thrust into a position where they have to, get up to speed within, weeks? A week? And be able to guide their kids through school? That sounds so hard. And so all the respect in the world to anybody doing that. Now, you know what? Since I'm drawing so small, why don't I zoom in, actually? I just realized that it looks small. If I zoom in, maybe it'll be a little more clear what I'm doing. Maybe something like that. So now I'll just shift this down a little. It's a little fuzzy, I guess, but not much I can do unless I someday get a better camera. Let's see, Sigmig says all his classes are online right now. Yeah, anyway, it's what we're all talking about, huh? It's almost 9 here. Yeah. So, it's only about 5 here. I don't feel like this Adam Strange is necessarily coming out as anything too spectacular, but I've literally never tried to draw him before, and Tom King, how dare you basically force me to draw your character by sending your fans. he goes, Adam Strange, and so a lot of people on Twitter were like, yeah, Adam Strange. I'm like, okay, I did put it out to anybody, so I guess I'm drawing Adam Strange. I wish I sort of knew the character a little better so that I had sometimes having a sense of somebody's personality, even when they're a fictional character, can really help. I think I'm gonna go a little rougher than I was originally planning and just sort of see what I can do here. Earlier today, Chrissy and I were making a puzzle, and we were listening to that song Dance Monkey by Tones and I, and I'll tell you, it is stuck in my head right now. Dance monkey, dance monkey, dance monkey, oh, oh, oh. Maybe I made Adam Strange a little too muscular. I don't know. He doesn't really have a super elaborate costume, but he seems to like be a little more happy than some superheroes. So I'm going to give him just a little hint of a smile there. He definitely strikes me as somebody influenced by sort of the Flash Gordon 1950s type aesthetic of pulp sci-fi heroes. That's the impression that I get. That's the impression that I get. That's a song, right? Any thoughts on Disney Plus being an opportunity for the MCU to properly flesh out the mutants? Oh, maybe. What was the picture on the puzzle? Sort of like a countryside type thing. Just like farmland and houses and flowers. So, yeah. Maybe kind of almost what you would say a stereotypical puzzle is. Yeah, this one definitely isn't my best, but maybe maybe I just sort of need to get a bad one out of my system and go from there. Or maybe I should have done some warm-ups. Maybe some of you that are artists know what I mean by that. You sort of need to warm up when you're planning on drawing. You just sort of sketch out some of whatever and comes out however it is, but that's not necessarily what you're trying to draw. That's just what you're trying to get in the trying to loosen up. And I probably could have benefited from that. Well, live and learn. Kind of gonna just sort of finish banging this out so that I can move on to the next one, and hopefully the fact that I sort of am way more familiar with Ninja Turtles will help me do a better Donatello, and we'll go from there. I figure every 50 drawings I do, one will be okay, so let me get the other 49 out, but I give up around 25. I hear you, Chris. Hey, Mom. My mom's in the chat room, too. That's hilarious. Did I learn anything new about Eastman or the Turtles in research? Did I learn anything new? I already sort of knew overall his path with the Turtles, with Tundra, and him coming back. I would say that some of the quotes that I got from guys like Steve Bissette were new to me. Understanding, like, you know, somebody that was involved but not as, you know, not part of Tundra per se. Like, he had an interesting perspective. Yeah, I think that, like, that was a little new to me. I'm trying to think. Some of the specifics, learning a little bit more about big numbers. I knew that big numbers was something that Alan Moore and Bill Sienkiewicz were going to do. I knew what it was about. I'm going to sneeze. I'm healthy, don't worry. That was like dust down here or something. I did not know that Kevin Eastman had hired Bill Sienkiewicz's assistant to continue it, and then that guy for some reason threw out his pages or burned them, allegedly. And supposedly he and Sienkiewicz get along and all now, but Al Columbia, the assistant who burned up the pages, just did not. He has some bitterness over his time with Tundra. So I couldn't find out exactly why, but that was sort of new and interesting to me. But I'm already moving on, it's time for the next episode, and next one's going to be sort of light and funny, and then I'll be back with some big name creators after that. Yeah, this is definitely not my finest work, folks. I'm sorry. Sometimes it just doesn't come together like you're hoping. Live and learn. This is his rocket trail, I guess. If I had more space, there'd be more of a swooping flow to it. Oh well. You should look at the graphic novel Saga. I love Saga. The Toys That Made Us episode showed Eastman in his tank. Eastman made a lot of money off of Ninja Turtles. And just think, he's obviously a pretty wealthy guy. I mean, I think he's doing pretty well. But he spent about $14 million on Tundra getting no returns. Just blew through that. Within 3 years, he'd spent about $14 million and got nothing in return. And then, on top of that, a few years later, Peter Laird sells Ninja Turtles for $60 million, and Kevin Eastman got none of that $60 million because he'd already sold his shares to Peter Laird for an undisclosed amount of money, but significantly less is all I can imagine. What is your finest work? I don't know. All right. Well, I don't really know Adam Strange. I tried, not in love with the results, but that's what happens sometimes. Now I'm going to move on to Donatello. I'm also going to see what I can do with a brush pen for the outlines, just to see if that makes me... Yeah, I already love that line art a little bit more. I don't think that it's necessarily bitterness between the two. I think that they just had drifted apart. I don't think that there was a bad falling out per se. Anyway, one cool thing, no matter what, that's a positive is they're both going to be working on a new Ninja Turtles story called The Last Ronin. They're both working together to co-write that at IDW. So they will be working together on Ninja Turtles for the first time since 1993. I'm pretty excited as a fan. So we shall see where that goes, but I am excited to see what the results are. Let's see. Mike says, I love your streams. Glad to see these live streams on Facebook. Yeah, well, I'm using this new thing called Restream, and it allows me to stream to sort of multiple outlets at once. How quickly do you run through pens? Pretty fast. They only last a couple pages, really. Fourth World by Jack Kirby. Very cool. Very cool. I bet you'll enjoy it. I think it's cool. I think it would be a little awkward if you missed out on that cash for a while, regardless of who you are. Probably, but he made that choice. He sold it for what he thought was a fair value, and that value increased. Is the best way to think about it. Anyway, but you know what? He's back working on it. He doesn't own it, but he's probably getting paid very well because he's been with IDW now for over 100 issues as co-writer, drawing a bunch of the covers, doing layouts on certain issues. So very, very heavily involved. And he's already made more issues of Ninja Turtles through IDW than he ever did when he owned it. So, you know, I'm sure he's not staying there just for the fun of it. Like, well, no, excuse me. He's not staying there for the money. He's staying there for the fun of it is what I meant to say. I'm sure he is staying there for the fun of it. So he's still involved, and I love that. I do read the IDW TMNT, but I'm way behind. So I need to catch up. I think I'm only up to issue like 40 or 45 or somewhere around there before I fell behind. So I need to catch up at some point, and I want to. Yeah, Donatello is my favorite turtle, and I think that that's why a bunch of people requested it, is because they just knew that I like Donatello. Hello, TARDIS Rider. Yeah, I appreciate the questions, folks. Definitely keeps this all more interesting, so keep them coming. Basically treat it like an AMA, and I'll answer anything I'm comfortable answering. Just realized that I thought this would look a little better if it was in shadow, and I'm probably going to add some other shadow to Adam Strange. I may jump back and forth between some of these guys here and there. Am I a Dragon Ball fan? Can't say that I am. Have not read or watched it. Don't really know it. Watched any shows, movies that excited you recently? I wish I could find some more original stuff that I'm into. I did enjoy Tiger King on Netflix just because it was batshit insane. Would I do a sketchbook tour? No. I don't think that I'd have enough people interested in something like that. Shabbat Shalom. Oh, I did not realize today was a high holiday. Excuse me. Let's see. Oh, Becca, nice to see you in here. Let's see. My kids are watching the TMNT movie tonight. James kept asking if they are real. I told him yes. We'll tell him that Girl Ninja is also real. My friend Becca used to do a self-published comic called Girl Ninja. Are you doing 6 fan arts? Yes, I am, Mike. I printed off the hashtag. Let's see, that kind of fell apart, but hashtag 6 fan arts, and the people that I put it out there and let other people request what I do, and the ones that got the most requests were Adam Strange, Donatello. Just gonna write this down in case anybody asks again. Mr. Miracle. Again, I'm pretty sure that Tom King was influencing these requests. Paste Pot Pete. That's going to be fun. Shredder. Kind of high with Ninja Turtles, two characters, but and then Spider Jerusalem. But I do like that this is at least a sort of a mix. We've got, like, DC Vertigo title, I believe. I'm pretty sure Transmet was Vertigo. We've got two indie things with Shredder and Donatello. We've got DC pretty well represented with Mr. Miracle and Out of Strange. And Marvel gets Paste Pot Pete, the most popular character. Have I ever lettered any comics? Yes, actually, I have. But let me roll that back slightly. Like, nothing like for Marvel or anything like that. Although I think I'm pretty good at lettering. I've tried to work on every aspect of comic book production. I know how to, and I'm not saying that I'm great, but the thing I think I'm best at, writing. But I've edited, I've self-published, I've worked on the behind-the-scenes pre-press stuff. I've lettered, I've colored, I've penciled and inked. I've tried to touch every aspect so that I can respect what goes into each aspect. What was your take on Super Shredder, and what were your favorite Turtles games? Super Shredder was kind of a disappointment because as soon as he showed up, they just sort of plopped him in the... Well, he just took himself out. He just sort of punched the pier and it fell on top of his head, and the Turtles didn't have to really do anything, so that was kind of boring. It looked alright, I guess. It was a very disappointing ending. Favorite Turtles games were probably those original arcade games. The Ninja Turtles games in the 90s. Turtles in Time and just regular Ninja Turtles. And that's why I've got that arcade cabinet upstairs now. It's because it was one of my favorite things as a kid. And I didn't play a lot of arcade games, but those are some of my favorites. Thanks for the fun questions, folks. I enjoy the comments in that. Did I watch the TMNT Batman movie? No, I haven't seen that. Any good? I did get an action figure based on it because I have a collection of every variation of Donatello that I could find for a toy. I've got just nothing but weird Donatellos. That's just a strange but fun collection that I have for myself. Any plans on a video about Charles Schultz? Not an immediate plan, but definitely something I'd like to cover at some point, yeah. Most famous ripoff of TMNT. Most famous. Hard to say. Probably one of the sort of cartoons that came out that was just animal based. I don't know which one lasted the longest. But it might be something along the lines of Street Sharks. Have to be honest, while I've always loved Ninja Turtles, never got into any of their sort of clones or anything. So, not necessarily sure what the most popular one was. Interesting question. Thanks. Why does Usagi Yojimbo wear clothes, but the turtles run around naked? Well, they're by different creators. So. Were a bunch of characters and tournament fighters on the SNES taken from the comics? Not that I'm aware of. I've heard the term Gotham High, but I don't really know what it is. I don't know whether it's a comic or a show. Sorry. Move this up a little. Do you play any video games? A little bit, not a lot. Not as much as I used to anyway. What do I have these days? Yeah, not really playing any right now. I pre-ordered Predator Hunting Grounds, which is an asymmetrical game, like where one person's a predator, hunts the rest of the people in the party that are all sort of soldiers that are a little less powerful, and you're just trying to either escape or take them down. It's made by the same people that made the Friday the 13th game, which I had supported on Kickstarter and really liked. And I like Predator, so basically a lot of my friends were going to get it, and I was like, all right, you know, that if my friends are playing it, then that's a good game to try to get, because that's mostly what I like to do these days with games, is either get something that's like really not a big time suck for me that I can pick up and drop pretty easily, or if I'm going to get on, that I can play with my friends, and sort of it's a Devils is a bit of a social outlet. Hope that makes sense. Predator Hunting Grounds looks cool. I hope so. Not going to be playing the Final Fantasy remake. I don't have time for something like that. I played the original and I really did like it. I remember that I was kind of proud of myself for beating that one because it was a big commitment time-wise. But I just don't think I'd have the time to play something like that these days. I really couldn't produce comic tropes if I played a lot of video games. And so while I really like video games, it basically is just a choice of like, you know, hey, am I going to just have fun, or am I going to try to like make comic tropes be something and put like my time and effort into that? And I'm putting my time and effort into that. Hopefully that makes sense. Truth, justice, and a larger slice of pizza. Absolutely. Cowabunga. Alright, well, not that this is great, but maybe it's a little better than Adam Strange. Let's move on to one that I think is going to be very difficult for me, is Mr. Miracle. I don't really know Mr. Miracle very well, is the thing. Thinking this through. Hold on. Xenogears remake would be cool. Yeah, probably. Let's see. You're more dedicated to your craft than Joe Mad. The video games got the best of him. Yeah, he did sort of go down that rabbit hole and never quite came back the same. I know he made or worked on a couple video games, so I hope that made him happy and was the path that he wanted in life. Favorite MCU movie? That's a good question. Let me think. Probably... Well, why don't you guys guess for a minute? I know what I'm going to say. Go ahead and guess. What do you think my favorite MCU movie is? And after I've let everybody have a chance to throw out a guess, I'll let you know. No prizes, just chance to guess. Well, I thought it would be harder for people to guess, but people are already guessing correctly. Yeah, Winter Soldier is my favorite. Winter Soldier is my favorite. A lot of good guesses in there. A lot of cool guesses. What's my least favorite? Probably Thor 2. I think Thor. And you know what? I could still maybe watch that if it was on TV. If I just came in, I'd be like, yeah, all right. I don't consider Howard the Duck an MCU movie. It is a Marvel movie, but I don't consider it an MCU movie. Same with things like Ghost Rider. There are, trust me, if I was going to go that route, then yeah, maybe Howard the Duck or Man-Thing would be up there. See a few guesses there on Facebook too. Winter Soldier, Ant-Man, Blade. Yeah, it's Winter Soldier is probably my favorite overall, I think. There's definitely sort of my top tier, which is stuff like Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Avengers, Infinity War, first Iron Man. Those are all way up there. Most of them sort of solidly in the middle, and then a few towards the bottom, like, Thor 2 and Hulk. If I'm being honest with myself, probably Ant-Man 2. That I don't dislike them. I really don't, actually. I kind of enjoy them still. But they're definitely towards the bottom. Yeah, they made a direct-to-video Man-Thing movie. Thoughts on Endgame? Yeah, very entertaining. Never thought in my lifetime I'd see a superhero movie with so many characters, so epic. I just wasn't the kind of thing I grew up thinking would be realistic. But we got it. It was amazing. Favorite Jack Kirby characters? The Thing, way up there. Definitely The Thing. Darkseid, credible villain. What else did I like that Jack Kirby created? Captain America. I love Captain America. Hulk can be really, really interesting. The X-Men. So there's a bunch of Jack Kirby characters that I love. Iron Shell, are you saying that your favorite movies are Black Panther and Homecoming? Or your least favorite? Because I thought that those were both pretty good, but maybe you must be saying least. I don't know. You ever read the Thing series after you stayed on Battleworld? Not the whole thing, but actually that was one of the very first comics I was ever given as a kid. So I had read one of those issues. Yeah. Favorite sibling? Geez, I think it might have to be Gene. Yeah, I think it might have to be you. My dad's favorite comic is Old Man Logan. That's a pretty dark book. Dad must have some dark tastes. But look at that. I'm drawing a Jack Kirby character right now. And actually, the next one is a Jack Kirby character, too. So, it's kind of interesting. Least favorite sibling. I won't say. My father is cold. Oh, he's old. I thought you said cold. Well, I'm glad you found it too. Favorite movie soundtrack, asks Becca. Favorite movie soundtrack. You know what it's going to be? I got to go old school here and say The Crow. the soundtrack for The Crow in like 93, I want to say. I thought that was a badass soundtrack. I really liked it. I really liked that one. Hey, Daniel. Daniel is a professional artist down in Brazil. And he was doing a live stream the other day. I was trying to follow along, but it was all in Portuguese for the most part. Every once in a while, he was very kind, and he would speak to me, the dumb English speaker that doesn't know Portuguese. But Daniel's very talented. Nice to have you here, Daniel. And yes, to answer your question, sorry, I'm drawing Mr. Miracle, or at least trying to. He's definitely got an interesting costume, which is essentially just lines, but it's a lot of lines. But I'm going to do my best. I'm no Jack Kirby, so keep your hopes low. The Crow is a good movie. I should rewatch it. Yeah, it's a good movie. The Crow's awesome. The Crow's really good. So, as a kid, I had seen a few Bruce Lee movies, and then I saw his son, Brandon Lee, in Rapid Fire, which was a really cool little action movie, you know? Like, not that little. I mean, it was a theatrical release. It had Powers Booth as his sort of sidekick, essentially. And it was originally written to potentially be a Die Hard movie, I think. But they rewrote it, and you can kind of figure out, like, what they were doing there. Like, yeah, anyway. But I liked it, and I watched a few more things with Brandon Lee, and then I heard that he was going to be making this movie based on a comic book. Well, I was way into comics at the time, so I was really excited. And then he died on set. There was a tragic mishap, and a gun fired a blank that like had some residue in it. It hadn't been cleaned properly, and unfortunately it killed him, and that really made me sad. And it still does. And it gives the whole movie, it influences the whole movie, because the main character has been like killed, and he comes back for like revenge, and it just really mixes together in a really creepy way. Just knowing that like the gunshot that kills the Crow is basically the gunshot that kills Brandon Lee. It really intertwines in a very morbid way, but it's still a cool movie. It's definitely still a very cool movie. Are you familiar with the artist Gustavo Duarte? I don't know Gustavo Duarte. Sorry. The gun had a bullet lodged in the barrel, so when they fired the blank, it popped out. Yeah, it was like, yeah. It was, yeah. That's a fair enough way to do it. The Asian chick was Trini from Power Rangers, and I think she died also after the movie. Yeah, sorry, someone was talking about, I guess, the sequel. I didn't care for any of the Crow movie sequels. I thought that they were all honestly pretty terrible, unfortunately. But the sequel had an actress who had played the original Yellow Power Ranger, and she died like right after the movie was made in a car accident. So the movie has some real sadness behind it. And the story behind the scenes of why it was created is honestly a lot like Clockwork Orange. So it's a sad rabbit hole to go down to learn about The Crow. It's not fun. No, they didn't use the fatal gunshot in the movie. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But the scene still takes place. Let's see. Speaking of TMNT, did you ever read the Archie series TMNT Adventures? I only read the first couple of issues, which were simply an adaptation of the cartoon. And I was like, it's not really the kind of Ninja Turtles thing that was for me. I liked my Ninja Turtles a little darker. I mean, I was a teenager, an edgelord little teenager that was like, no, Ninja Turtles should be violent, and that's what's cool. So at the time, that didn't really appeal to me. Let's lighten the mood. What's a feel-good show or movie that cheers you up? Good thinking, Chris. What's something that cheers me up? Music cheers me up in general. What cheers me up? Well, I guess if I knew that like really well, I probably wouldn't have as much depression as I have. So it's a little tough to say exactly what cheers me up, but spending time with my friends, keeping busy and feeling like I'm valuable because, I'm producing something, that makes me feel good. How about all of you? Like, what are things that make you feel good in general? I like the question. I like the question very much, Chris. The Good Place is a great feel-good show. I like The Good Place. You're right. That is pretty darn funny. The Princess Bride. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Most comedies make me feel good. What are you planning on reading this weekend? Oh, let me think. It's a cool question. What am I planning on reading this weekend? I would say probably a bunch about two different creators, John Buscema and Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Those are two that I want to learn a little bit more about. So I'm going to be reading those guys a bunch this weekend. Scrubs and Futurama. Yeah, I can see how that would make you feel good. That's definitely feel good stuff. Jose is a maestro. I totally agree, Daniel. One of the all-time best, still alive, and guess what? Like, he just did a piece in Detective Comics 1000, and it was gorgeous. And you're like, he's still one of the best. Somehow does not use reference. Just can draw. Some people just have so much inherent talent, it's crazy. And Jose is one of those. What's your take on Mechagodzilla being the villain? I kind of like him as a villain sometimes. Favorite DCEU movie? Oh, let me think for a second. What would be my favorite DC Expanded Universe movie? Well, there's a couple good ones. I mean, Wonder Woman, Shazam, and Aquaman were all fairly entertaining for what they were. Do they compete with the absolute best that Marvel has created? Not quite, but still pretty good. What is the best? I think Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman would be my favorite. If you're asking me, like, also, like, what sequel would I be most looking forward to? Again, Wonder Woman. I think that was pretty well done. Definitely curious what other opinions there are. I'll tell you the ones that I didn't like. I did not care for Justice League, Man of Steel, or Batman versus Superman. I didn't care for any of those. I wanted to, but no. Oh, I also didn't like Suicide Squad, but I did like Harley Quinn. Okay, I still wouldn't call it my favorite, but it was decent. All other cinema Batman was a manslaughter. I love Ben Affleck Batman. Love Batman as a murderer. Okay. I agree, Daniel. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez is just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. Not enough people know how great he is. All right, let's see. I don't even read comics, but I like your show. Well, thanks for liking my show. Hopefully you can try some comics someday and you find some that you like. It's a medium that it's my favorite medium. I think you can tell, like, just so many kinds of stories with it. I think that, like, the only thing you can't do great with it, but you can still do it, is I think it's hard to do stuff that has, like, music in it. You can sort of talk about music, but it's hard to sort of, like, make people think always about the music. But you can do music. I'm just saying that that's, like, one area where it's not as strong as, say, TV or film. Like, because those can, like, really give you musical cues that make you feel something. I wish comics could kind of do that. You could, like, get a supplementary piece to it, but that's not within the comic itself, right? That's what I'm sort of arguing. But there are ways that you can address it. There are. Henry Cavill is in talks to play Wolverine. I'll believe it if they announce it. That's hard to believe. Should I watch Rise of Skywalker or 1917 tonight? 1917 is definitely the superior movie, so I would recommend that one first. If you're a Star Wars completist, yeah, it's okay to watch Rise of Skywalker. I wasn't really wowed by it. Scott Pilgrim kind of played around with music in the comics. I mean, it was about music, but it didn't give me a musical cue that, like, made me, like, feel something. You know what I'm saying? It can be about music. It can, like, include music to a degree, but you're not hearing it no matter what. You're reading something. Same as books. Like, books also don't necessarily have, like, music in them. Do I listen to any podcasts? Here and there. I like listening to true crime, comedy, and sometimes movie review stuff. Those are all, like, types of podcasts that I enjoy. Sometimes my sister will give me a good recommendation for, like, a true crime podcast. I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, Coheed and Cambria. I've heard of that. And I've listened to some of their music. I haven't like listened to how they're supposed to go with comics per se, but I like what I've heard of Coheed and Cambria. Um, like I say, you can have elements of music with comics, but I'm just saying that you can't use it the same way you can with um, movies and TV. But almost everything else, I think you can do with comics. I was trying to say that they're incredibly versatile. You can really, like, you can get into the characters' heads. You can play with time. Budget doesn't necessarily have to be a huge constraint. I mean, it's what the it's what the artist is able and willing to do, but you can do so much with comics, and I love them. Well, I don't really love Mr. Miracle either, but whatever. Moving on. Let's try to do Spider Jerusalem here. There's a chance this one could come out better just because I did him close up instead of a medium shot, which probably in retrospect I should have done for all of these characters, considering the size I was illustrating at. But sometimes you need to draw small or medium-sized figures, so, you know, I can learn from this even if it's not good. I keep forgetting this is comic tropes. This is comic tropes. The guy that plays Daryl on The Walking Dead would be a good Wolverine. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if he's quite got the charisma. Wolverine is up there with like Spider-Man, and it's a very important character to Marvel, and you've really got to cast it just right. I hope they focus a little less on Wolverine, to be honest. I don't expect that to be the case. What if they just got a 5'3" guy to play Wolverine? Maybe. I mean, there are a lot of short actors in Hollywood, so I guess it's possible, but not going to be easy. Let's see. Small Town Murder, True Crime, and Comedy. I may have listened to that one. I remember the first X-Men cartoon where Wolverine had an Australian accent. Yeah, that was weird, right? That was weird. Well, he also had an Australian accent when he appeared on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I remember, like, Spider-Man met the X-Men. Wolverine, like, skewered, like, some fruit on the table, and he went, like, "Want a piece of fruit?" Do you think Tom Holland is doing a good job with Spidey? I think he's doing a great job. I think that Tobey Maguire is probably my favorite overall take, but I think that, like, Tom Holland is a pretty close second. And it's not, like, fun for me to say that because actually I do think Andrew Garfield is a really good actor in general. I do not think he was quite the right guy to be playing Spider-Man. I thought he was a little too cool. Through no fault of his own. That was just sort of how he was written. And also Andrew Garfield was kind of too old for the role. Tom Holland is my favorite Spider-Man. Well, I like that he's young. I like he's pretty athletic, and he's definitely quippy. So there's a lot to like about that. Like they've rolled in a bunch of different elements that I do like. Yeah. Hey, I'm illustrating a tattoo. Do any of you out there have a tattoo? Maybe one you're proud of? Or not? I do not have any tattoos. At least not yet. Hello from London, England. Hello, Simon from America. Do you think the Black Widow movie will be good? Yeah, sure. Characters with tattoos must be a pain to draw. Well, I think that there's a reason why this character was often in, what would you call it, like a black jacket. Mom doesn't like tattoos. I know. I know. That's okay. Not everybody has to like everything. Appreciate everybody joining, though. This is definitely fun for me to just sort of be able to socialize a little bit. All right, let's see. People are commenting, and let's see. Don't quite understand that question. If you could write Superman or Batman, which would you choose? I'd go with Batman first. I'd have more ideas, but Superman would be a great challenge. Which Marvel character who hasn't appeared yet would you like to see in a movie? Can I just say Daredevil since he hasn't been in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie? I think Daredevil would be awesome. You have a very relaxing stream of water in the background. Yeah, that's what my kitty's water bowl. Is Judge Dredd worth reading? Absolutely. Judge Dredd is very cool. Where would you start with Judge Dredd? Start at the beginning. It's pretty easy to read him through case files. It's a reprint of all his stories in order. That's what I would recommend anyway. Helps you understand the character and the world. It's a pretty quick read too, because he would come out like, weekly in issues that were only like, I don't know, like 6 pages at a time. I mean, some of them are to be continued and stuff, but I'm just saying, like, it reads pretty fast. There's a lot of creativity on display, like, right from the beginning. Appreciate everybody being here. Thanks for asking questions. Definitely keeps it light and interesting. Have I ever read the Meta Barons? Some. I need to read more. Yeah, I'm sure I could do an episode about that someday. Alright, that works for Spider Jerusalem. Let's, I think I'm going to have fun with these last two, even if they're, like, kind of small and simple. I've got, which should I do first? Shredder or Paste Pot Pete? Which? I don't know. What's an obscure comic that you think people did not realize came from a comic? Chris says History of Violence. I think a lot of people don't know that History of Violence was a comic book. Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks, that was a comic book. Snowpiercer, that's a comic. What other adaptations are there from things that people don't always realize are comics? History of Violence, Road to Perdition, Snowpiercer. Now I'm sort of drawing a blank. But yeah, those are some. Favorite Captain America run? Definitely the Ed Brubaker run. Ed Brubaker really... chef's kiss. I love it. Shredder. Okay, everybody says do Shredder first. Okay, no problem. I'll do Shredder first. Just going to try to do this relatively quickly, because you know what? Shredder actually has a deceptively simple design. The only thing that like complicates it at all is the fact that he has some of those blades on his shoulders, forearms, and shins. Aside from that, though, his design's really simple. He's a great villain. It's so funny that like Eastman and Laird, like they definitely didn't think that they were going to be making more than one issue of Ninja Turtles, because they kill him right in the first issue. He's so good. They're like, whoops, now he's gone. Obviously, he got brought back, but he got pretty definitively killed in that first issue. Yeah, he returned in the comics several times. Both in the original and in the repeats. My Friend Dahmer. Yeah, that's a good one. Wait, Whiteout was made into a movie? It was, wasn't it? Whiteout was made into a movie with that lady from the Underworld movies. That's right. That is not a good adaptation. Whiteout is a great comic. It was not a good movie adaptation, unfortunately. What do I think of the Spider-Man story Maximum Carnage? It's okay. The End of the Effing World, yeah. That was Ghost World. Yeah. Ghost World, not everybody knows, is based on a comic. I'll probably review that one pretty soon, actually. I feel like I need to do an indie comic soon. Well, I just did TMNT, which is indie, but still. Kate Beckinsale. Yeah, Kate Beckinsale was the star of Whiteout, and in my opinion, not a good adaptation. I've been copying Frazetta, Icono, Retrospevtib. You came to mind. don't quite understand all of that, but it sounds like you've been reading Frank Frazetta stuff. I love Frank Frazetta. I had the pleasure of going to his museum once and was very fortunate in that his wife made some time to come and talk to my friends and I, and told us all about Frank's life and stuff. By that time, Frank had had a stroke, so he didn't come out to the museum too much, but it was a pleasure getting to speak with his wife and getting to pore over his gorgeous, gorgeous artwork. Big fan of Frank Frazetta. I've mentioned him once or twice in episodes when he's sort of come into the periphery of something, but haven't done an episode on him yet, but it's definitely a possibility. Have I ever read Wormwood, The Gentleman Corpse? I have not. Sorry, that one's new to me. The original Judge Dredd is not on Comixology. Really? You know where it might be? I bet that the case files would be available still on Amazon. I feel like they'd have to be, even a digital version. I'd check that if I were you. How fast does that ink dry? Pretty fast. I can rub my hand over like this one and it's good. And over here, I can do it up here. Yeah, it's dry pretty fast. The spider image could get smeared. So basically, if I wanted to clean any of this stuff up, I just sort of would loosen up my kneaded eraser a little bit. There's a 2000 AD app. Was it Wanted with Angelina Jolie, a comic? Yep. I'll tell you, I don't think anybody's had better luck than Mark Miller with comic book adaptations, because I think all of his movies have been better than the comics. Logan was in some ways based on Old Man Logan, and that was a much better movie than a comic. Wanted, I would say, was better than the comic. Kick-Ass and The Kingsman were both better than the comic. Anyway, once I've sort of stretched that out, I can just sort of rub over this very easily with my kneaded eraser, and it's just picking up the pencil lines but none of the ink. And as you can see, you get a much cleaner picture very quickly. Here, let me shift this over. I'll just do it for all of them right now real quick. Mr. Miracle. Donnie. It really does a great job at picking up the pencil without smearing it. And Adam Strange. And while it doesn't necessarily make the artwork better, by cleaning up some of those superfluous lines, I think it does make it look at least a little cleaner, which is nice. Take out the X-Men stuff. Logan itself is a great film. I wouldn't want to take out the X-Men stuff, but yeah, I think it works really well. They lucked out so much in getting Hugh Jackman to play Wolverine, who was, of course, not the original choice. That was Dougray Scott. But Dougray Scott was filming Mission Impossible 2. It went late, and he had an obligation to finish that one first. So Hugh Jackman was a last-minute choice there, but he made that role his own. Do I think Chris Evans is the gold standard for... Sorry, hold on. Yeah, Chris Evans nailed it with Captain America. It didn't make him too, uptight and boring or bland or anything. He was great. Very charismatic. But he's always been a good actor. Go back and look at him, even in things where he wasn't it wasn't a great movie, Not Another Teen Movie. pretty generic parody movie. He's really funny in it. Cellular, pretty average thriller, really starring Kim Basinger. He nails it. He's always had a lot of talent. So I'm not surprised that he did a great job with Captain America. We're lucky that he took it, since he'd already played a Marvel character by being the Human Torch. So plenty of actors would just say, no, I don't want to revisit that. But you know what? Aside from playing Captain America, like maybe 7, 8 times or something, he's done like at least 6 other superhero movies. So, or not superhero movies, comic book movies, because he's done TMNT, Snowpiercer, The Losers, Scott Pilgrim, Snowpiercer. Yeah, I know that Will Smith was the first choice for Neo in The Matrix. And do you know who the first choice for Morpheus was? Sean Connery, Sir Sean Connery. And Sean Connery turned down The Matrix. He turned down the role of Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. Both of those movies were huge hits, and he's like, maybe this modern day sci-fi stuff is something I should get into. So when he was offered the role of, I'm trying to remember, but in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, who did he play? Alan Quartermain. He was like, well, I missed out on The Matrix and I missed out on Lord of the Rings, but I won't miss out on this one. And that was just a terrible movie. So bad, it made him decide, the hell with it. I guess I'll retire now. If only we could, sometimes I think about the fact that Sean Connery is still with us. Gene Hackman is still with us. Neither of them have made movies in ages, and they're both so engaging on the screen. Yeah, Chris Evans played Casey Jones in the 2003 TMNT movie. I think it was 2003. Maybe it was 2004. Somewhere around there. Why didn't Will pick it up? He just didn't think that The Matrix was the right thing for him. I recently rewatched the first Captain America movie, and skinny Chris Evans made me scream. You like my Sean Connery impression? Yeah, I'm sure I nailed it. Let's see. My mom says, my favorite is your flipboard of the man jumping off the cliff onto a shark. What are you trying to say, Mom? I don't understand that. Let's see. She says, my favorite is your flipboard. Oh! I think I get it. She said flipboard. I know what my mom means. She's saying that a piece of art of mine that she liked, I used to make flip books as a kid. Not flipboard, flip book. And you'd have like all the pages. You get a notebook, and I would draw crazy things. And she's remembering one that I don't really remember, but it definitely sounds like something I would have done, of just having a man run, jump off a cliff to go swimming, and a shark jumped up and ate him. So she's saying that that's her favorite thing I did. That's dark. What's dark? Just the man jumping into the shark? It was a cartoon. It's silly. I grew up by the ocean, and I grew up by a cliff, and those both were very influential things if you go back and look at like the drawings that I did as a little kid. Like, they're just constantly people falling off cliffs and getting eaten by sharks. The only other thing that happens a bunch is people tend to pick up bombs, but that's probably because I was watching some Looney Tunes at that age. So yeah. So I'm going pretty scratchy with the rest of this, but I think that's appropriate because the original drawings of Shredder were very scratchy, as you would know if you watched my recent episode about Kevin Eastman and Ninja Turtles. I hope you all watched it and hit like and subscribe. Otherwise, I'll die. Did you know that? I die. 2008, was that the year of the Ninja Turtles movie? Sorry. To be fair, Will had Bad Boys, Men in Black, and other huge roles. Yeah, he probably just felt like he didn't need The Matrix. And he probably didn't. It's hard to imagine somebody other than Keanu in that role right now. I mean, Will would have probably been much more jokey in the role, right? Probably. Let's see. When you were little, you drew a flip book, my sister says. Yeah, I drew a lot of flip books. I love those things. It's kind of funny, actually, now that you say that. Like, it's funny that I didn't somehow go more towards animation as an interest, but I guess, like, all I can say is when I discovered comic books, that was it, man. I think that they're, like, the best art form. Like, they're the best. And I like music, and I like movies, and I like theater. But for me, comics are the most versatile. You can do anything with them. They're great. And I just want to spread that love and knowledge to others. I just think you can do so much with them. I heard that a lot of the story elements for The Matrix were from a specific comic book. There's an argument to be made that it was very heavily inspired by Grant Morrison's book, The Invisibles. Having read it, I personally don't see it 100%. I understand where the argument comes from, but it's not like... The Invisibles was not like a cyber type thing. It was just a comic about reality, and I don't know. I think that The Matrix was a mashup of a lot of different things. You know, there's a lot of anime and kung fu, but there is some of The Invisibles overall idea on levels of reality. There is. What's the Disney Plus MCU show you're most looking forward to? I guess Winter Soldier and Falcon. Yeah. The brain in the jar hypothesis. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Tent. How about how Harry Potter is an awful lot like Timothy Hunter? I don't know Timothy Hunter, but I think I did hear that once. Oh, recenter. Oh, boy. Thank you, Gene. Wish I'd done that sooner. Sorry, everyone. I guess it really shows that most people are just here to talk more than to hear me. I mean, yeah, than to see me draw. Other people commented too. Sorry, everybody. My bad. Having you draw in the background while hearing you talk is like watching a Bob Ross episode. Yes, my voice is known to calm people, and I definitely impart wisdom on the level of Bob Ross. I'm just kidding. Bob Ross was a treasure. A treasure. Oh, I know what else. I started watching Community because they added it to Netflix. I love Community. I don't know if I'll watch season 4, but otherwise I love it. Big fan of Dan Harmon. Yeah, so there's mostly Shredder, and I could probably put in a little more detail, but let me take out some of the pencil, clean it up a little. And it ain't perfect, that's for sure, but it's not bad. There. It is what it is. How many Meow Meow beans do you have? 27. I have 27 Meow Meow beans. Favorite 90s comic book trope? Pouches. Shredder is my favorite drawing thus far. Well, thank you. Was Shredder based on Vader? No. He was basically just based on the ninjas that were in Daredevil at the time, as well as Ronin. It's very, very heavily inspired by everything Frank Miller was doing. And Frank was just sort of basing that off of the manga that he was reading, like Lone Wolf and Cub, things like that. That's true. Yeah, Mose has a good point. Their helmets are both based on samurai helmets, so that's sort of the similarity. But I don't think in terms of personality or anything that Shredder's really too close to Darth Vader. It's just the helmet. Have I ever seen the pilots of the failed show adaptations of Lobo, Rat Bastard, and The Amazing Screw-on-Head? I've seen The Amazing Screw-on-Head. Fantastic. Don't know Rat Bastard. And the one for Lobo was, I believe, a fan production. Pretty sure on that. Alright, let's wrap this up with Paste Pot Pete, everybody's favorite. And I do have a printout of, like, sort of what his outfit is, because I don't really understand Paste Pot Pete. So I've sort of got that just up here to sort of help me. But let's do what I can do. Paste Pot Pete, what an idea. Thoughts on Spawn in Mortal Kombat 11? Sounds cool to me. The hand versus the foot. Exactly right, Chris. Shredder looks a lot like Silver Samurai. Well, again, Samurai. I need Tao advice. Back when A was a child, due to a abuse, I lost the happiness that comes with drain. I'm sorry that you lost the happy nest, I think. Reminds me of Snake from Metal Gear. How do I recover that passion? Oh, I really wouldn't know. That's really more for a therapist than me. Thoughts on Carlos Ezquierra's artwork? Very, very awesome. Yeah, Judge Dredd, Carlos Ezquierra. Very cool dude. Gritty, but detailed. Very creative. Great at world building. A lot to like about him. I'm dumb. The Lobo pilot never got made. I'm referring to the late 90s Lobo web cartoon. Oh, okay. Paste Pup Pete had a goatee. Because of course he did. And this huge sort of... It's not a beret. I think it's like an old-fashioned painter's cap of some sort. I'll be honest, I don't 100% know why it's so floofy and floppy. I'd love to know why. What else? Teen Titans by Wolfman and Perez is great. Read it. I love it. Hot take, never liked McFarlane's Spider-Man design. It's pretty influential. Pastry chef's hat? Maybe. Have I ever considered covering Logic Comics? Don't know Logic Comics, sorry. Let's see. From here, I'm gonna do... Yeah, I gotta do his big... He's got, like, really puffy, like, initial outfit. It's almost like he was wearing, like, personal protective gear. Just a really ridiculous idea for a villain. A guy that has really good paste. Really good paste. Okay, Stan. He's got this weird bow. And a huge high collar. I hear a sound. I think somebody is approaching. Hello? What brings you down? You brought me a present? Oh, what's this?
Orange juice.
I love orange juice. Chrissy brought me orange juice.
Oh, you already fed him?
Okay. What's your favorite juice, folks? Mine's orange juice. That said, I actually don't drink a whole lot of it these days. We're trying to keep me from being a big fatso, so don't get a lot of juice. That's why I just gobbled that down. That was a treat. Trying to have less calories wherever possible. And especially during these times, we're just trying to take care of each other by cooking lots of non-processed food. Not easy, you know? Not the easiest thing to commit to sometimes. So anyway, that's a treat right now to have some juice. Apple juice is the best. Ginger kombucha. I could become fat. I don't know. But I think I'm actually losing some weight. Trying anyway. I'm trying to be like... and it's hard, like right now. It's hard to be like a good version of yourself, but I'm trying to be. I really am. I'm trying to do good things. I'm going for walks. I'm trying to eat healthy, like cook for each other. We're doing a lot of cooking for each other. We haven't really had any delivery or anything since we've been in isolation or, quarantine. We haven't ordered any delivery yet. Just cooked for each other a lot. Should go on more walks, but going for walks. And then I'm trying to draw more, and I'm trying to memorize a Shakespearean soliloquy, just to test my mind. I'm doing the famous to be or not to be speech. I have to practice, and when I practice, I have a bunch of it, but right now I probably wouldn't go. To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take... Wait, I'm already stuttering. To oppose them. To take arms against the sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep. Aye, there's the rub. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. I have to refresh myself. So I've got only like about a third of it so far. It's just something I just started doing. And that's not even me trying to perform it. It's just me trying to memorize it. But I'm going to. I'm gonna memorize it. I'm not there yet, obviously. But I'm gonna get there. It's gonna be fun. I've always wanted to memorize some Shakespearean stuff, and I'm going to. I know I can do it. The first step is really understanding what the meaning is, because it's very different language than we use today. But it is understandable if you're patient and you read it carefully. You're like, okay, Shakespeare was very like metaphorical and witty, and when you take that into account, some of it starts to make a lot more sense. So, yeah, something I'm working on anyway. A few more days and I'll have it. I'm trying to be a good version of myself, I'm trying. It's not easy right now. It's not easy. Has there been a Shakespeare comic? Probably, but I haven't really looked it up. You read a Romeo and Juliet comic for class. Okay, very cool. I like Shakespeare. I really enjoy it. I don't know why. I guess I find it like funny when I try to understand it. So I like Shakespeare. I haven't read it all, but it's something I want to know more about. Let's see. I'm going to actually read it and see if that can help me memorize it, okay? To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them? To die, to sleep, no more, and by a sleep, to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub, for in the sleep of death what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life, for who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin? Who would fardels bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills that we have than fly to the others that we know not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er with the pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pith and moment with this regard their currents turn awry, and lose the name of action. Soft you now. The fair Ophelia, nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered. There we go. Did I sing my own theme song? No. Hired someone. Hello, Jason. What you entered into was me reading quickly a little bit of Shakespeare, just to try to better myself. I am currently trying to memorize a soliloquy, and I don't have it memorized yet, but I thought I'd just read it a little bit and just sort of practice it, try to understand it a little better. So in a few days, my goal is to record myself in one take delivering that soliloquy, and hopefully delivering it convincingly and clearly. That's just something I'm working on during this downtime. Hamlet. Exactly. I would say that Hamlet's probably my favorite Shakespearean play. I also really like I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of it. The one with the harpy that, like, you know, the guy wins over. It's a comedy. I like the comedies. What was it? Taming of the Shrew. Taming of the Shrew is a good one. Midsummer's Night's Dream is a good one. I like the Scottish play. No, what's it called? Is that what it's called? Macbeth? Not supposed to say its name. Oh, hi! You caught me performing Shakespeare perfectly. Are you aspiring to join community theater? No, I don't think I'd like to do that. I just trying to do a couple things that could, like, better me, and I felt like one of them would be to simply memorize a Shakespearean soliloquy. Probably not the thing most people think to do with their free time, but it's always been something I've wanted to do, is memorize a little bit of Shakespeare. So I am doing one that's, you know, maybe it's a cheat because it's so famous, but in another way, what Shakespeare is not famous. And I wanted it to be a soliloquy so that I could just sort of do it by myself, as compared to, you know, need a scene partner or just like read or memorize something and not have somebody responding to me. So I went through a couple options and I was like, nope, I think I'd like to do this one. So hopefully if I like doing it, it just means that I'm more likely to do an okay job. And if I do an okay job once, maybe I can memorize even more at some point. And I don't know, just something I'd like to do. All right. Another way to better yourself is to call your sister. Nah. Yeah, I will. What if it was community theater that only performed episodes of Community? I will definitely give you a call at some point then, Gene. I'm not trying to be a bad brother, that's for sure. Alright. Paste Pot Pete. Let's add just a little sticky slop to everything here. Alright, and there we go with Paste Pot Pete, which I think in a way came out the best of all of them. But you know what it was? I said earlier that what I needed to do was warm up, you know? And I think that's the case, because I went across, like I went whoop, and I think that they got better as I warmed up. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit so that you can see all of it. And then I'm going to work on something else, actually. There we go. So, I was doing the hashtag 6 fan arts, and the ones I got the most requests for were Adam Strange, Donatello, Mr. Miracle, Spider Jerusalem, Shredder, and Paste Pot Pete. I think that Paste Pot Pete is the one that came out the best, and then maybe Shredder and maybe Donatello. I definitely think that Mr. Miracle and Adam Strange have some pretty wonky proportions. Spider Jerusalem is like, you know, whatever, it's in the middle. So, took a shot at a few things, and I think what I'll do now is pull down what I was working on yesterday and do a little bit. Oh wait, I've been going for 2 hours. Oh, all right. Then this is a good time to wrap up. I was about to like work on this some more, but maybe I'll only do a tiny bit because I didn't realize how late it had gotten. You guys have all been patient. You don't need to have me use up your whole day, your whole life. Yesterday I was, or maybe it wasn't yesterday, right? It was the day before yesterday, I guess, that I was drawing Optimus Prime, and I was going to work on that some more, but I won't do too much more now that I see how late it is. Continue. I'll continue a tiny bit, but I didn't realize that I'd been doing this for 2 hours. That's quite a while. Be or not to be? That is the question. Thank you to, I mean, a lot of people jumped in. I really appreciate it. That's super cool. I think that I think I would have enjoyed acting if I had discovered it younger in life. I think that might have been something I would have enjoyed, but I never really gave that any consideration when I was younger. But I think I might have enjoyed that. So that's part of why I was like, let's see what happens if I try to memorize some Shakespeare, you know? Just give it a small shot here. So that's kind of a fun project in its own way. What questions are being asked? Anything? What about comic angst? I don't really consider that much acting. I was just goofing around in college. Finished season 1 of Lock and Key on Netflix. They changed a little bit, did they? They made a change identity key so Dodge can change into whoever he wants. Okay, interesting. Well, we'll see. I haven't seen it yet, so I got some catching up to do there. This is obviously something I've taken some more time on than the quick sketches that you were following along with earlier. They found the Omega key. Okay. Hi, Pandora. Let's see. Where does Optimus's trailer go when he transforms? I don't know, man. I don't know. I think the tougher question is, where does this gun come from? Yeah, it's a little creepy. Hey, Optimus, where'd that gun come from? I'm going to need some very precise answers, please. Yeah, you know what? I want to do this, but I'm also realizing I'm a little bit burned out from just sort of sitting down for 2 hours. I'm not a pro, so like 2 hours is kind of a long time for me. It's fun, and I could keep going, but I also think, I don't know. There's other things that I sort of need to work on, like the next comic tropes, and that's like what I'm thinking of right now is like, should I really be working on that instead? Feels like the answer is yes. You all want to have a new episode this weekend, I'm assuming. Well, I think I can do that. I reckon. Pace yourself. The gun is Megatron. Fan theory says Transformers have a subspace storage technology. Sure, why not? Some of them seem to be able to grow and shrink, so why not? Seems like that's something you'd want to actually make a story of, like why they don't bother to all just shrink and grow as they please, but hey, what do I know? What do I know? My iPhone is an iPhone 7, and I guess it's getting old because the battery, like, I have to charge it several times a day at this point. Oh, it's so frustrating. It just does not last. I was really hoping I wouldn't have to buy a phone anytime soon, but it sort of feels like it's going to become necessary. Trying to be frugal with my spending, especially where I, like in my episodes, I'm like, oh, can you donate a little bit? I'd love to do this full time, but I don't want to like have people thinking that I'm blowing their money on telephones. We'll see. Trying to make it last as long as possible, but it's getting really, really annoying. Planned obsolescence. Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going on, Prince Dogboy. Get a Samsung. iPhones are designed to last 2 years. Yeah, it is older than 2 years. I've held on to this one for quite a while. The batteries stink on the 7 after a while. Go get a third party to replace it. Maybe. Chuck Austin's X-Men story, She Lies with Angels. Oh, that was sort of Shakespearean. Got it. Go to a non-Apple place and get a new battery installed. Wonder what that would cost, because honestly at that point, like, you know, maybe it's just time to get a new phone, because it is something that you do sort of have to do every once in a while. But maybe I appreciate the advice. I like having options. I do like that. I'm going to just finish inking Optimus Prime's gun here. Erase the pencil marks and throw down some grays on it, and then I'll worry about his legs some other day. So that's my current plan right now. As soon as I finish inking and coloring in this gun, that's when I'll call the stream, I'll say it's had its day. Let's see. Yoo-hoo. Stop updating your phone. I'm still using my iPhone 5. Maybe. By the way, as a person of color, really liked the Black Panther episode. Well, cool. Thanks, Alex. I try to vary it all up is all I can say. Need some Comic Tracks soundtrack right about now. Comic drops. There you go. There you go. It doesn't get better than that, I don't think. How could it? How could it get better than that? One time, I met one of the guys who draws Transformers for IDW. His name's Andrew Griffith. And I took advantage of the opportunity and said, like, hey, you know, I'd love to understand a few things about how you draw Transformers versus how someone would illustrate, you know, any other comic out there. And he was kind enough to put up with me, and because I said, look, I gotta understand this. If I'm drawing superhero book, romance book, western, whatever it is, horror, I'm still mostly drawing people, maybe made up monsters or something, but in other words, they're things from real life. But a Transformer, drawing the vehicle is one thing, even if it's a fictional vehicle. But when they turn into a robot, they all have different dimensions, you know? So if I'm going to do a quick sketch like you saw earlier today, and I was going to put put down the dimensions, like block out a person, you know, I've got like, you know, a rectangle here and like some circles and some ovals, etc. And I'm building the character with certain dimensions, because people share generally certain dimensions. You can't do that with a Transformer, not really. You can sort of come up with like a stick figure outline for a pose. And he was like, yeah, it like legit takes longer to draw a Transformer. There's just no way around it. And, you know, a lot of times he would basically have the toy to like rotate, but they don't give him that toy. You know, that's on him if he wants to get the reference. I was impressed. I was like, that's a lot of work. That is a lot of work to draw that way. It's a tough assignment. It's a tough assignment. And you start to understand, if you go back and you look at the Transformers comics that Marvel did, for the most part, like, I would say that the artwork is not amazing. You know, it's nothing too groundbreaking. The transformation effects are off, or they're just like a couple little boxes between, like, you know, an outline of a truck and like then a few details for a robot, and it's just not that great. So yeah, it was really interesting though to speak to him and say, like, you know, is there like some sort of a workaround or something? The answer is not really. The answer is it's just a very time-consuming job. Okay. More power to you. That's amazing. I don't think he really like knew who I was in the sense that, like, you know, like I do a YouTube show, so he was kind of just, I think, tolerating me more than like wanting to engage me. Like, I don't think he knew that I'm a little in the industry. I wish I could have connected and learned even more, but I was grateful that he sort of put up with some of my questions, and yeah, nice guy. And it's like, honestly, I'm not trying to say, oh, that I'm somebody, so nobody has to give me any sort of preferential treatment. Trust me, I don't I don't expect that. Let's see, any questions? Have I ever drawn that famous Russian helicopter a hind? No, I've never tried something like that. I'd have to use reference, really. I would. You sound like a t-shirt waiting to happen. What? Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Optimus Prime says Transformer rights. Don't be so modest. I don't quite understand the you sound like a t-shirt waiting to happen. Did I say something, or is that like regarding something that was like said in the chat room by somebody else that I missed? I'd love to come up with a catchphrase. There's a guy I used to know a little bit. His name is Ryan Ridley, and he was a writer and producer for the first 3 seasons of Rick and Morty. Is where most people would know him from, but he's done other stuff, you know, writer on Community and writer on other TV shows and movies and stuff. I like him. I think he's really funny. And back in the day, before he was like, you know, writing for shows like that and stuff, he was trying to get his big break. And most people have to, you know, get a job like, you know, say a waiter or something like that. Something that's just sort of like hourly that they can like drop if things take off. But what Ryan had was really interesting, and it's always sort of stuck with me. He had created a t-shirt, and it proved popular. He came up with a catchphrase for a t-shirt, and it was just, I do all my own stunts. You've probably seen t-shirts like that. Here's the thing. You can't exactly, or not easily, copyright a slogan like that. But he got a lot of money. Like he sold it to someone or other, and they sold a ton of t-shirts. And so for like a couple years, he was able to live off of the money from just the t-shirt while he tried to break in and stuff. I thought that's an amazing story. Colonel, this is Snake. I distracted the guards by removing my boots and stepping on ketchup packets. Besides Optimus Prime, who is your favorite Transformer? Starscream. He's so entertaining. Starscream's pretty funny. Like unintentionally funny. Alright. Almost done here. Appreciate everybody hanging out though. Alright, that should do it for today. Appreciate everybody, as always, being in here. definitely makes everything go faster and more fun. It's very, very fun for me anyway. So, I hopefully will do another live stream pretty soon. Until then, I want you to all keep reading comics. I want you to all be kind and make nice decisions, smart decisions. It's a tough time, but we got to be extra patient and kind to each other till we get to the new normal, which we can. So yeah, just thank you all for joining me. You really helped me pass the day in a really pleasant, enjoyable way. I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. I'll have a new Comic Tropes this Sunday, I believe. Got to get back to work on it right now, but thank you all, and what else can I say? Keep reading comics. All right, I'm gonna find the off button here. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.